Good morning, test subject. You have been in suspension for 72 days. The Aperture Science Computer-Aided Enrichment Center congratulates you on your 36-year sleep anniversary. You have been selected as a potential candidate for our Human Emergency Response Team. Please review the agreement provided on the nearby monitor.
Welcome to Portal Revolution. My name is Stefan Hans and I'm the creator and lead developer of this mod. I've been working on this for almost 8 years, so I'm excited to finally share this behind-the-scenes developer commentary with you. I hope you had a chance to play Portal Revolution before jumping straight into developer commentary, as it will obviously contain spoilers. If you're ever having trouble hearing or understanding us, you can enable subtitles in the audio options. Now sit back, have fun, and thank you for playing my first game, Portal Revolution. Starting a Portal 2 mod can be quite challenging. We want it to be unique, but also not too out there so that players wouldn't recognize it as Portal. Early iterations featured a test chamber vault just like in Portal 1, but we felt this was too derivative. The container ride we ended up with is very reminiscent of Portal 2, but has a few twists. In Portal 2, the ride is highly dynamic and epic, whereas here it is rather uneventful and more subtle in its world building. We wanted to show the player the state of our world right off the bat. The slow ride in a dimly lit Aperture facility shows the way in a low-power environment that is still largely functional. The facility still operates as intended, just another human being dragged out of the cold storage vault and sent to the test chambers to die.
To be accepted into the Human Emergency Response Team, you will now participate in an advanced difficulty testing track where your problem-solving skills, athleticism, and response to increasingly hazardous conditions will be evaluated. Please press the button to accept the terms.
Most of our custom in-game videos were created entirely in the free software Blender, which we also used for all of our 3D assets as well as some textures. As modders, we like Blender not only because it's free, but also because of the awesome community surrounding it. Source Engine uses custom file formats for its models and materials, which can be tricky and cumbersome to deal with. There are plenty of Blender add-ons available, all made by other modders, which make it trivially easy to import and export Source Engine formats. We also created our own Blender tools, like to create pre-rendered physics simulations and achievement icons. The Swiss Army knife of a program came in so handy in so many times. Thank you, Blender Foundation, you're awesome. Early playtesters often reported that they didn't know why they were solving test chambers. We thought in a Portal mod it would be obvious why you're solving puzzles, but the lack of a goal was still an issue. In the original Portal, players don't really have a goal spelled out to them either, but the mystery surrounding Aperture and ladders is itself enough of a motivator. Players naturally ask, who is this robot voice? Why are all the observation rooms empty? What am I testing for? That worked for Portal, but not so much for a mod. This is where the Human Emergency Response Team comes into play. It is presented as some sort of elite crew of highly skilled test subjects, which the player tries to join through solving difficult and dangerous puzzles. This immediately proves successful. It's a vague goal and eventually turns out to be a lie anyway, but it keeps players engaged enough for the first chapter until the real mission begins.
Thank you for volunteering. The door will open in 3, 2, 1.
Earlier versions of the mod would have the player wander through average modern test chambers until they finally got the first impressive vista in the Overgrown chapter. First impressions matter, so I added this big and open vista right at the beginning. It also serves as another reminder of the facility's dead state, and it's a nice breath of fresh air after the small and stuffy motel room. One of the greatest game-changing moments we experienced during development happened when we received the source code for Portal 2 from Valve in 2020. Modding Portal 2 without source code is very limiting. The engine still lets you do a lot of stuff, but you can only go so far. Getting the source code was a long-winded process. There is no clear-cut strategy documented anywhere. It took us over a year of constant back and forth until we finally got it. Despite how long it took, we're still incredibly thankful to Valve. Getting the source code turned the mod on its head and opened up countless new possibilities. We'll go into more detail throughout the mod, but up front I can say that this mod wouldn't be the same if we had to use the standard Portal 2 engine. This will come up again and again, so I want to clear up the organizational structure of Stratosaurus to clear up any confusion. 2 other modders and I originally got source code for Portal 2, CSGO and a bunch of other Valve games back in 2020 to develop a mod called Portal 2 Community Edition, which is still in development and intended to be an improved base for Portal 2 mods. I worked on Revolution and P2C side by side, intending to use the P2C engine for my own Revolution mod. Later we were joined by Momentum mod and founded what is now known as Stratosaurus, a shared engine branch used by P2C, Momentum and Revolution. We all use the same engine and can share features, but also all make our own custom tweaks to each game. Collaboration is at the heart of Strata and allows smaller mods like Revolution, which don't have a lot of programmers on its team, to inherit features shared by other mods. For example, our DirectX 11 port and some graphical features like parallel extracted cube maps originated largely in Momentum and have been added to the base engine so we can benefit from all that work as well. Other features like improved level loading speed have been contributed by P2C developers. And some of the features we added to Revolution are now also available in P2C and Momentum. So if you're ever confused about what Strata and P2C are, it's just a shared code base that allows modders to share a common engine. This first, or rather zeroth test chamber, is completely stupid. There are no test elements and it's totally useless. If you paid attention, you just went down some stairs and got up on an elevator. Now you will walk up more stairs, walk down stairs, until you finally reach an elevator that takes you up anyway. Tons of up and down, none of it has any purpose. Players asked why this room is here, probably expecting some exciting reason, but reality is often disappointing. I just thought it was funny.
Test subjects may experience symptoms of mental defects after long-term chemically induced hibernation. You will now participate in a brain damage evaluation survey to determine just how damaged your brain is. If you believe your brain is sufficiently operational, press the button in front of you and continue the test.
The Brain Damage Analysis Survey was originally added as a sort of parody to older Portal 1 mods that reteach trivial mechanics like walking and pressing buttons. Well, it turns out that training wasn't trivial. On more than one occasion did I see playtesters attempt to use the left mouse button to push buttons in the game. Controls aren't universal in games, so this button was added to reintroduce players to the basics. Later we added another button much earlier to sign the long aperture contract, but we still kept this room around. I wrote a much longer piece of nagging dialogue for when the player refuses to press the button. It was used as a demo script for voice actor auditions. We auditioned close to 100 people for both roles. We found the voice for Sterling very quickly. When I heard Will's audition, I just knew he was the right one. He didn't just sound like a regular boring person like me, his voice is expressive with so much character. The role of Connolly took much longer to fill. Most of the 100 auditions went towards the female character, but I will save that story for when we meet her.
Very good. Please walk through the portal and continue testing. Your self-reported status is more than sufficient for testing.
Hi, this is Will Neal. I'm the voice actor for Sterling. Very excited to be here today in my booth. To give you a little bit of backstory, I joined Revolution back in 2021, I think. I auditioned for a character that at the time was named Pete. I saw Stefan's pitch for the project, and I loved it. It was just very clear from my first conversations with the team that they knew what they were doing. They had the drive and the skill to actually bring this thing to life, and better yet, they really understood this franchise. They understood Portal on such a deep, fundamental level that I was confident they could make something that didn't feel like an imitation, but felt like it could be a part of this world. And I think that totally turned out to be true. So now, I, along with Sarah, get to talk to you about the voice acting side of things and discuss this very manic little guy. Isn't it exciting?
We expect players to have completed the 2 base games, but still decided to add some basic training at the very beginning. Portal 2 is already over 10 years old by now, so it's safe to assume that many players will be a bit rusty in the beginning. We kept these basic introductions as short and fast as possible so experienced players aren't held up too much, while new players have some time to re-familiarize themselves with the mechanics.
Hello, my name is Jared Pula, and I created music for Portal Revolution. This is one of the first few chambers I did music for, and this specific track became a leitmotif referenced in a few later tracks, most notably the final chamber of Chapter 1, which features a variation of this exact track, and the final boss music.
Be advised that noticeable damage to eyesight is not part of any test protocols, but is an unintended side effect of the Aperture Science Material Emancipation Grill, which in semi-rare cases may emancipate some of the light-sensing rods and cones inside your head.
The design of this portal gun room is similar to the one in the original Portal, but in addition, it includes all of the training done in the subsequent chamber. Players need to use the orange portal as an exit and as an entrance at least 2 times, which helps to break players' habits of treating the static orange portal as only an exit. We wanted to redo all these basic trainings for reasons explained before, but subtly introduced it in the same space to not drag it out.
Hi there, my name is Dustin Oakley. I was one of the mappers for Portal Revolution, and I joined the project back in 2020. This vista was added to include more visual interest to the beginning of the game. For this particularly grand section with the open-styled elevator shaft, I added a vac tube that partially wraps around the departure elevator. So even though the facility is dead, it still feels like that Aperture players love, with all its inefficiencies.
Your performance in the next test chamber will be timed to measure puzzle solving and execution speed during extreme wind and weather conditions. In the rare case that wind and weather conditions appear to be ordinary, please stay idle in the entrance foyer until the desired conditions are met.
So this whole introduction segment is technically our introduction to Sterling, kind of. He's like Santa Claus right now. We can't see him, but he is watching us and judging us critically. I also want to mention the announcer voice. This is not me pretending to be an announcer. This is me pretending to be Sterling, pretending to be an announcer. My announcer voice is, great. It's very refined and subtle. This is what Sterling thinks an announcer is supposed to sound like. It's a little bombastic, but you know what? He's trying his best.
This chamber is designed to resemble Chamber 9 from the original Portal, which we call the Impossible Chamber. While the layout is largely identical, the iconic hole above the fizzler is missing. As a consequence, players need to find an alternative solution and have to learn that pre-placed portals do not get destroyed when they walk through a fizzler. This solution in fact already works in the original chamber. We like putting new twists on concept from the base game. It's an effective way to get players to think about familiar mechanics in a new way and helps them to think outside the box. It also neatly summarizes Portalution's general design philosophy. It's familiar, but slightly different, and lets you realize things about the base game that have been there all along.
Detailing the large sections of Aperture's behind-the-scenes vistas takes a lot of time, and more often than not, making completely unique and original details isn't worth the effort. So in order to speed up the development process, and save our sanity, we created decoration instances, which are little submaps you can copy and paste around your map to help speed up these repetitive detailing tasks. Sometimes the same instance could be used multiple times next to each other, and simply rotating it to show a different side helped make that less obvious.
Portal 1 and 2 both start by giving the player a blue-only portal gun. It's only ever used as an introduction, and the puzzles never become difficult. We call these mono-portal puzzles. Other mods, like Blue Portals, already explored mono-portals, but no major Portal 2 mod ever did. We saw and took this opportunity to spend a lot more time with mono-portals. The main difference with them, besides the inability to move the orange portal, is that the orange portal never gets destroyed when you walk through a fizzler. This makes fizzlers way more interesting and powerful, since it now acts as only a partial boundary. We needed to teach and reinforce this behavior as early as possible, which is what this map is built to do.
Congratulations, test subject number 1. You have set the world record for this exercise, and now officially hold first and last place on the leaderboard.
This line about the timed chamber is a nod to the speedrunning community. Portal speedruns are crazy and fascinating, turning the game into a puzzle on top of the actual puzzles. The line at the end reveals that you're the first human to run through Sterling's testing track, integrating subtle exposition into a speedrunning community tribute.
Okay, what do we have here? The next test may contain concentrated amounts of electromagnetic radiation that may be harmful to the retinas of some humans. The Enrichment Center recommends to solve this test with closed eyes, as health insurance will not be provided for this specific exercise. In case the light-sensing rods and cones of your eyes have previously been emancipated by an emancipation grill, feel free to ignore the prior warning.
This surface is totally just a red herring. We usually don't like putting these in the chambers, as they're a rather inelegant method of adding difficulty to a puzzle, but just making it more confusing. However, since this chamber is rather small, it was surprisingly effective. Players would line up the laser to pass straight through the wall, feel smart, and then dumb again as their portal gets fizzled. In a larger puzzle with more moving parts, something like this could be really frustrating, but we found this one to be more on the comedic side. It also further reinforces that players need to think outside of the box.
I wanted the laser catchers to sound like random machines that just so happen to be kind of melodic. Like when you notice a washing machine or a radiator kind of has a nice beat as it's doing its thing. The repetitive beeping noise is to instill the idea that they are just machines trying to carry out their designated function.
Portal 2 features the iconic blue fizzlers, but also red laser death fields. These look visually very different from fizzlers and have completely different properties. Laser death fields have no effect on cubes or portal projectiles and only kill the player. The mapping community has invented their own red fizzler variant, which we call the Death Fizzler. It combines the properties of both fields, destroying physics objects, blocking portals, and also killing the player. The visual look we have in Portal Revolution conveys this idea pretty clearly. However, another popular Portal 2 mod took the visual design of Death Fizzlers and applied it to their laser death fields. There it looks like a fizzler, but doesn't behave like one at all and has confused mod players ever since. We designed this chamber to show players that our Death Fizzler behaves properly.
I think this might have been the first chamber where I did some dynamic music stuff. The laser catcher, and main track are the same BPM and will all sync up if they're all playing at once.
completed the test. If you have not done so already, you are permitted to open your eyes.
There used to be 2 more chambers before the elevator, which featured a blue laser variant. It behaved just like the red laser, but receivers would be color-coded to only accept one type of laser. When this feature was added to the P2C engine, we experimented with a lot of different applications, but the mechanic just wasn't fun. Lasers in general are hard to make fun puzzles with, and with more colors, the puzzles just turned into micromanagement nightmares, with indicator spaghetti lines going all over the place. We even designed different musical motifs for the different laser colors. Red lasers beep deep and slow, while blue lasers are quick and cheery. As much fun as the music was, the blue laser just didn't fit into the mod and was cut rather quickly. You can still find the music in our standalone soundtrack.
Before starting with the next test chamber, we would like to remind you that, so far, no experiment has yet unproven whether or not weighted storage cubes are not incapable of not feeling pain when being emancipated.
This isn't really critical information here. I would just like to point out that I read this line about weighted storage cubes so many times. It is forever ingrained in my head and occasionally haunts my dreams. I like to think that I got it right on the first take and Stefan just wanted to torture me that day. And the worst part about it is I still don't know what the line means.
The source engine loads all level data into memory at once and requires loading screens to transition to the next level. So a question you will eventually have to answer is when to place a loading screen. Portal 2 maps are typically very short, often featuring only 1 test chamber per map. This is no problem for large chambers that take time to solve, but Portal 2 is sometimes criticized for having very frequent loading screens. If you increase the size of each map, you end up with less loading screens, but each one will take longer and the game will use up more memory. Rather than splitting maps according to file size or entity count, we use them as pace breaks. This map includes 4 small test chambers that all build on each other. Bundling them together also allows us to connect the chambers in more interesting ways. Here they all share the same space and can be visited through the observation rooms at the end. Loading screens are often hated, but we found they work well as natural points for players to take a break or stop playing. Portal 2, there is a central config file that lists all the data displayed on every chamber sign in the game. This offers developers a good overview of all the chamber signs, but it comes with the limitation that every map can only have one sign. In Portal Revolution, we wanted to put multiple chambers into a map. Having access to the source code, we were able to create a custom chamber sign entity that allows mappers to configure all this data directly.
Well done, candidate. You have successfully solved 5 test chambers. To ensure a high quality of human resources, the following test chambers may include elements of danger. Extra caution is advised. Good luck.
You just got teleported from an unlit version of this room to a lit one. Source doesn't like dynamic lights very much, and it's often easy to just clone the entire space. This teleport was added late in development, when we were going over Act 1 to add some life. The interconnected nature of the space didn't make that easy, which is why you actually got teleported twice. The copy in the interconnected space is always the lit version, with the unlit version off to the side. Inside the door is a world portal that gets you to the unlit copy before teleporting you back to where you should have been just a few seconds later. Portal's engine makes it really fun to think with portals to solve design problems. This is the first map where we prototyped this dimly lit lighting style for Chapter 1. These chambers used to be lit just like Portal 2's, with bright and cold lights. We felt like the standard lighting didn't sell the dead aperture theme we wanted to convey. We call this style After Hours. It's supposed to resemble that feeling of being the last person to sweep the floors in the office after everyone has gone home. also sort of mirrors the new job you will receive at the end of the chapter. Creating this look took some tweaking to balance visibility for gameplay with aesthetics.
I made all the cube music with the expectation that it would only play as they were soaring through the air, but in-game that's not the case. They continue to do their intense bleeps and bloops even after they reach solid ground, which is a little cute, I guess, and gives them some personality.
For after hours, almost all of the observation rooms are dark, which gives a lonely and eerie feeling. Problem is that they're primary light source in puzzles, so we need to find alternatives. Light strips work well, but we try to add some variation for interest. We like to use electrical equipment in the behind the scenes areas as light sources. They can also be used to add a nice flash of color, which the normal test chamber lights aren't suitable for.
On behalf of the Enrichment Center, I wish to apologize about the current state of our testing facility. Due to technical difficulties, we are unable to provide an experience of suitable quality at this time.
The Glass Touch achievement came about after we added the sign here, which was just decoration at the time. Playtesters always love to touch it as soon and as often as possible. Whenever we see players do stuff like that, it's a great candidate for an achievement, so we found some more spots to put the glass, which get more difficult and obscure to touch every time. They're always easy to see, the question is how to touch it. We also wanted to add a reaction line from Sterling, but didn't find the time to record it. Source uses cube maps to simulate reflections, but they always had one massive flaw. They appeared to move with the player's camera. Strata added support for parallax correction on cube maps, which allows mappers to define a boxy shape for a cube map to stick to. When configured properly, their reflections can look pretty realistic, as can be seen on these light strips. As you move around, the reflection continues to look accurate. We updated a lot of Portal 2 materials to make use of proper cube maps, since many seem to always reflect a solid white texture, presumably to conserve VRAM. Getting this to look right in all lighting environments proved difficult and didn't turn out exactly how we hoped, but here it looks pretty good.
As a consequence of semi-recent events, some aerial faithplates could be misconfigured and launch objects into arbitrary directions. Be careful. Well, that's definitely wrong. Give me a second. There. Try that. Good. That faithplate is now properly calibrated.
From the beginning, this entire chamber was built around this jump through the ceiling. I wanted to make an introduction chamber for faithplates, but needed something to make it unique. Faithplates are a fairly straightforward test element and don't need a lot of training. They're great tools for subverting expectations though, and we were able to use them to further re-emphasize that the facility is slowly starting to fall apart. In this chamber, the player needs to use the floor-mounted portal spawner to preserve momentum for flinging, which I call a buffered fling. These flings, or variations of them, come up again and again in the mod, so we introduce them early on in conjunction with the faithplate. Getting momentum isn't the hard part. The puzzle is about preserving that momentum to get yourself or a physics object to where you need it.
Well done. From now on, all aerial faithplates should be configured correctly. I promise. Well done, candidate. You are nearing the final test chamber. Solving this last chamber and completing the testing track will grant you membership into the Aperture Science Human Emergency Response Team.
These two final chambers were meant to be much harder than the previous ones, but still interesting and fair. Difficulty can be added to test chambers quite easily by adding multiple win conditions. The floor button in this chamber could be removed while keeping the rest of the puzzle intact. Its only purpose is to extend the puzzle, as players now have to solve the bottom section twice. Cube swapping and respawning are also common ways of adding difficulty to a puzzle, but they can often feel forced or cheap, so we try not to overdo them.
As a reminder, your Aperture Science provided health insurance does not cover injury or fatality from immolation from the Aperture Science hard light bridge. Rest assured that unlike your fragile human tissue, all Aperture Science equipment has been built to withstand temperatures of up to 4,000 degrees Kelvin.
Little changes in level layout can make quite a difference in how the world feels. This foyer could have been built without glass, but they never pass on a chance to connect multiple areas together. Seeing where you will go or have already been is a powerful tool that makes the world feel just that little bit more open and interconnected. The game isn't just a series of corridors, but a cohesive, connected place.
In this chamber, we hear the melody from the first test chamber again, but at a slightly lower pitch. I don't remember my exact thought process on why I reused the melody here. I probably just thought it would be neat, since it's the final test chamber for Chapter 1.
Source Engine doesn't really have proper dynamic lighting. Most lighting is pre-baked into light maps and cannot change while you play. However, Source does let you make multiple light map pages by using named lights. We use this to cast actual light from the light bridge and static portal spawners. This lighting is still pre-computed and can't change. The map compiler pre-computes all permutations of the light's on and off state and interpolates between them to create a fade effect. It's fun to see people blown away that this is possible in Source, while this has been a feature since Half-Life 1 or possibly even Quake. Little changes in level layout can make quite a difference in how the world feels. This foyer could have been built without glass, but they never pass on a chance to connect multiple areas together. Seeing where you will go or have already been is a powerful tool that makes the world feel just that little bit more open and interconnected. The game isn't just a series of corridors, but a cohesive, connected place. Source Engine doesn't really have proper dynamic lighting. Most lighting is pre-baked into light maps and cannot change while you play. However, Source does let you make multiple light map pages by using named lights. We use this to cast actual light from the light bridge and static portal spawners. This lighting is still pre-computed and can't change. The map compiler pre-computes all permutations of the light's on and off state and interpolates between them to create a fade effect. It's fun to see people blown away that this is possible in Source, well this has been a feature since Half-Life 1 or possibly even Quake.
In this chamber, we hear the melody from the first test chamber again, but at a slightly lower pitch. I don't remember my exact thought process on why I reused the melody here. I probably just thought it would be neat, since it's the final test chamber for Chapter 1.
This is one of my favorite puzzles. Laser blocking isn't often used in maps, but it's a really interesting interaction. The laser can be blocked from either side of the glass. When we design chambers, we try to get consistent stuck spots. A step in a puzzle where all players have to think for a bit. Getting 100% success on a stuck spot is pretty much impossible, but this chamber has been very consistent throughout playtesting. This fake chamber doesn't even really try to look real, but a lot of players don't seem to see the trap coming, which we see as a success.
Congratulations!
The panel opening animation is inspired by early Portal 2
sorry for the
E3
surprise.
videos.
Current testing
We went through the
protocol
clip
demands
frame
I
by frame
dispose
to
of
match
all
the
test
animation and
subjects,
environment
so I
as
had
closely
to
as it makes
intervene
sense.
before you were, baked. I'll be honest with you now. There is no Aperture Science Human Emergency Response Team. I made it up. Sorry for lying to you. Before I can explain why I brought you here, we need to get you registered as an Aperture employee. We don't want security systems to hunt you down after all. The Guardian and Intrusion system doesn't like it when test subjects escape the chambers. There's a security checkpoint nearby. Follow me.
Okay, now here's our official introduction to Sterling. Hi. We did a lot of takes of this segment, not just because we had to introduce his character, but also we had to tease the stakes without giving some giant info dump on the players, which took a while to balance out, especially as the story was changing over time. I think this is actually the first piece of animation I ever saw from Stefan putting my voice to the character, which was super cool. As long as I was on it, it was always the plan to fly through the wall and land in this little surprise party that he's throwing for you, which is adorable. I mean, he put up a little banner for you. He hangs decorations better than I do. And I have hands.
Sterling's introduction has changed a lot over time. We always knew we would add a surprise, but the gameplay here has been adjusted a lot. His dialogue needed to be short enough for players to not lose attention, while he also had to deliver a lot of exposition. He surprised you and you're done with the tests. The human emergency response team was a lie, but the testing wasn't for nothing and it does have a purpose for you. And if that wasn't enough, we threw the stuff about authorization on top. We were not sure if players would be attentive enough to listen and understand everything he said. The space is very open and offers many distractions. We streamlined the geometry over time, reducing the amount of exits and visual clutter, and players seem to respect his first appearance enough to actually listen to him. We also added far more detail to his facial animation than we usually do to honor his first appearance, which seems to help to keep players' attention.
Dark in here, isn't it? The checkpoint is right there.
The authorization gameplay was first added so players would spend some more time with Sterling when they first meet him. Back then players wouldn't get hired as employees, they would just get added to a general list of authorized people. We felt this was a little abstract and we didn't intend to use the authorization gameplay in later levels. A playtester then said, "Oh cool, we're getting hired at Aperture." We liked the idea, so we wrote it in. It feels a lot cooler and much more natural.
Maybe you can get through this stationary portal emitter?
Now that we decided you would become an Aperture employee, we had to come up with a job for the player to do. We thought it would have to be a low-level position without any requirements, something Sterling could hire anyone for, with no need for extra verification. At the time, I worked at a place where I had to take over some of the janitorial duties when our usual janitor was out sick, so this felt like a natural fit.
There it is. The controls are manual, so I can't help you. Got a clue?
If you don't press the button, Sterling will keep saying lines, which we call nags. We went a bit further and even added branching
so you have to
dialogue and some
stand in the
interactive
scanner
elements.
to get registered.
We wanted to add more of this stuff
Any
later,
plan
but didn't find
how?
opportunities or the time to really delve this deep again. Sadly, most players never see this, so give it a shot and look what Sterling does if you refuse to press the button.
Maybe that portal can help again. Are you absolutely sure that door right there doesn't open? Well, if you don't even want to try, you must be very sure it's locked. Well, here's an idea. Maybe you can try and squeeze through that counter right there? Or are you too voluminous for that? Already tried sprinting? I'm running out of ideas here, honestly. Yeah, how about that? Let's try to run as fast as possible. Go on. You know how running works, don't you? It's like walking, just faster. Alright, do you need time to prepare and do some stretches? What's the issue? I can do a countdown for you. Alright? 3, 2, 1, go. I can do a countdown for you. Alright? 3, 2, 1, go.
During playtests, one of the main questions we got was about the name of Sterling. It was never revealed at the time.
I can
While
do
we
a
didn't
countdown
think it
for
was
you.
that important,
Alright?
we wanted to find a
3,
natural way for him to
2,
tell his name.
1,
The
go.
robots in Aperture never say each other's name. GLaDOS just calls Wheatley Moron, and Wheatley just calls her, her. We only ever hear Wheatley say his own
do a
name once
countdown
in the
for
game.
you.
Tiny
Alright?
little Wheatley
3,
did this.
2, 1,
At the same time,
go.
we thought about making Sterling the head janitor and your boss. He could then formally introduce himself as your new boss, where it felt natural for him to mention his name.
I can do a countdown for you. Alright? 3, 2, 1, go. I can do a countdown for you. Alright? 3, 2, 1, go. Oh, good idea. I think that did the trick. Good. I can now register you as our new janitor. Welcome to Aperture. You can call me Sterling. I'm the facilities manager and your new supervisor. Okay, we have no time to lose. Right this way. Well done. Not everyone gets this position, you know. You should be proud.
During an internship, I visited a little data center where I saw a huge pile of hard drives next to a dedicated hard drive shredder. I mean, yeah, it makes sense, but I still found it pretty funny. Same day, I asked my modeler if he could make it, and here it is.
Cleaning up after humans that don't exist anymore. All right then, up we go. You probably noticed